speak to Iain Mansfield, who is the head of education at the Policy Exchange. Do you have any more sympathy for the government?
I think it's a really tricky situation because, as I understand it, there was some new evidence that came out over the summer because they thought they could predict when these buildings were at risk of collapsing. And then they realised after one collapsed that actually they couldn't predict that. And so, in that situation, I think it's hard to see how they could have done anything else than what they've done in terms of, you can't risk schools literally falling down on top of kids. I mean, what I hope is that over the next sort of few weeks, and it's going to have to be quite rapid, they're going to get a better indication of, which are at immediate risk of collapse and, which ones can be propped up or can be, have some sort of maintenance work done on it. But that's going to take a little bit of time. And the important thing right now is to make sure that all those kids can get into a school of some sort.
Were you surprised that even though the announcement came out yesterday that these schools need to be inspected and children aren't to be in these buildings, were you surprised the government didn't name the schools involved?
So I don't think there's a huge need to publicly name the schools. I mean, I'm sure it will come out quite soon because, the parents will talk to people. But I don't. If I was a head teacher right now and I'd just been told this and I was trying to, frantically sort out some alternative provision, the last thing I'd want is a horde of journalists from across the country descending on me to take pictures. I think giving the heads a little bit of grace time is perfectly sensible. I mean, you obviously do need good communication with the schools, and I hope that's going on. I don't know either way, but this doesn't need to be a sort of. The exact schools don't need to be the centre of attention. The important thing is the national issue, and actually, of course, as your other caller said, whether or not this is happening in other buildings, office blocks, hospitals, and so forth. Let
me get you to react to what Nick Gibbs said yesterday. He was on with Nick Ferrari, and he said he would be happy for his nieces and nephews to go to school given the current situation.
Would you be happy, in all honesty, Nick, would you be happy with your nieces and nephews sitting in a classroom under a propped-up RSJ? Which is
yes, it is. Yes, it is, because we're being very, very...
You'd be happy for your nieces and nephews to sit in a classroom under a ceiling held up by a steel girder on props?
Yes, because
we're like your nieces and nephews very much.
We're taking a very precautionary approach. Some would say we're being overcautious in dealing with this.
That was a man in charge at the government, Nick Gibb. Here's Iain Mansfield, head of education at Policy Exchange. Are you surprised he seems so calm about it?
No, I mean, I think it's very sensible. What he's saying is that if something's been propped up appropriately in the way that they've been told needs to do, then it's going to be safe. And I mean, I'd be happy with my own children in that situation as well.
Do you think there's a danger that after the pandemic and all the problems that we've had with strikes as well, now we're getting another impact on children trying to get on with their education? Well, they're going to have to be at home because apparently some schools are saying they're going to have to be self-schooled for weeks again.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's the big thing that needs to be avoided, and I think what needs to be done there. I mean, to me, that's the real worry, and I think schools need to be made aware that that's not an option. It should not be an option for more than a few days at most. They need to get mobiles brought in. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having school in a mobile. Most of my secondary school career, I was sitting in a mobile. And, whether it's mobiles, whether it's using village halls, children need to be in school in person. And we saw in the pandemic when that doesn't happen, education dropped off a cliff, particularly for more disadvantaged students.
Thank you, Iain. Iain Mansfield, head of education at Policy Exchange.